one of the most important parts about all of this is our live frequency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're big on frequency. 432 frequencies is where it's at. You can catch this information on Instagram. We are also on Facebook at CMCC 1080 on Facebook. So appreciate y'all tapping on all of these different levels. We got the YouTube going. We got Instagram going. We have the Facebook going. So, you know, we about to get into this topic of discussion. But again, we want to reiterate the terms and conditions. Entering into these logs or these platforms, our studio time and our live stream, 432 frequencies are very important for the people that's chimed in right now, because 432 is a representation of positive energy, positive sound frequencies, understanding. And so we want to make sure that we're all clear. This is a safe haven. This is a place and a format where people can come here, be themselves, share out what you want to share. But while sharing, we want to make sure that your energy is up to code and not over code.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
I'm just thinking.
Oh, you do what you're doing. And so I'm going to just slide in here a little bit and just basically break down the topic of today. And the topic of today is on the lines of, why do women push good men away? And paraphrasing, women pushing men away in the feminist movement. And
the effect that feminist movement can have on good men.
Yeah, and the effects that the feminist movement can have on good men. This is going to be a really decent topic right now. So
seemed like there was a lot of interest in what we were talking about.
Yeah, and we want to just make sure that we give the party people what we were talking about. And
don't mind me.
Don't mind Dorothy. She's doing what she does best.
I'm trying.
And when she puts it together, it is put together.
Can you give me that little black thing?
Man, I'll hand you whatever you need. So if you're in here already, just tell us how you're feeling a little bit until we put it together. You know, how's your frequency level? I hope it's on a good code. It's on a good level, because this is beneficial for everybody in here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to learn something from each other. We're all educators, and we want to make sure that we can all produce what is needed for us to grow healthy and stable. I'm liking this. Perfecto.
All right, we're set.
You heard Dorothy say it's perfect, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
And so, again, thank y'all for tapping in. 432 frequency is the vibe that we want to be on at all times, and we want to make sure that we can be understanding to each other's opinions, our facts, and your facts.
Mm-hmm.
If we share any, you know, we're not here to criminalize anybody. We're not here to degrade anybody. We're here to have wholesome, healthy conversations that sometimes go uncommunicated with each other. So
a lot of times
it goes that way.
Where should we start?
Okay. So what I'm gonna say is I'm gonna start by just jumping into it. There's two things that I want to address in this topic of this conversation. Is that the two things we got to focus on, two different traumas,
mm-hmm.
right? There's two traumas that we're dealing with when we're talking about male and female. Two traumas. And is one trauma more severe than the next? I would say yes. I'm going to say yeah. There's no equality in the trauma, but there are two terms of conditions of traumas on the table. And the first trauma and the most important trauma is a woman's trauma, and what women go through and how they've ended up in a situation that they've been in post-relationship and post-existing. For the most part, we're talking modern day people, because a lot of the trauma that's for women has been created before women were even, before they even had a fair shot to do anything.
Right.
So again, in our last video, we were talking about how trauma stems from way back since the beginning of the times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where women's trauma starts. And so the second trauma would also be men's trauma, because men also do have a traumatizing situation in this relationship with women and us trying to exist cohesively with each other. And the reason why I would say men's trauma is because how women are traumatized because of how they've been treated, and a system that's been created to suppress them and keep them down and not allowing them to grow.
Mm-hmm.
that was a trauma that was induced to women to keep them in that predicament, or create that circle around them to keep them enclosed and boxed in.
Right.
The trauma for men, especially good men, is that has been raised to believe that this is the way that men are supposed to be.
Right.
And so embedded into our genetic code too of mental disruptions, we try our best to not be that stereotype.
Yeah.
And we fight our best to avoid being labeled as a person that's oppressive to women. But it's hard for us because it is something that we've been conditioned to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been taught that this is how men are supposed to act. And regardless of how much we fight against it, it is what it is right now. So I would like for us all to be understanding to both traumas in order for us to really get a good grasp on why we're in this predicament and what we're supposed to really do to get out of it. So with that being said, and again, when I broke down, is one more severe than the other one? Yes, because the woman's trauma is more against the woman, and a man's trauma is how we've been conditioned to be the oppressors. Right. We've been conditioned to be oppressors, whether we wanted to or not. We've been conditioned that way. And our acts and our ways of being raised and taught has put women in a bind predicament that make them a lot of the time distrust most men, and some women, all men.
Yeah.
You know, and so
it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hope that makes sense to y'all too.
Yeah, because it's picking up off of what we were talking about last week.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, and sorry, I'm messing with this thing because
that's what we do. We adjust things as we figure it out.
Yeah. So let me get over here. So, nope, let's go cover the camera. Boom. Okay. So yeah, what we were talking about last week and how men, it's a man's world, mm-hmm. right? And whether you want to believe that or not, mm-hmm. that's just what it's become. And then, like you were just saying about how men have come to the conclusion that certain, I don't want to say overbearing, but like controlling behavior, and mm-hmm. they're at the top of the food chain, and mm-hmm. And women are basically at the bottom, or at least always under them. They've come to accept that, mm-hmm. and because of that, then you get the over-aggressive men, or the men that have had their own traumas, and they take it out on women, and it kind of snowballs into relationships and working relationship, any kind of relationship, but specifically what we're talking about more so is dating relationships or marriages, where then the woman a lot of times ends up the victim of some kind of assault, abuse, what have you, whether it be physical or mental.
I was just going to say.
Right. So, and the man, I think, and not to make any excuses, but I just think because of that conditioning, he probably doesn't even realize that he's abusing, and that's why we're talking about communication and understanding and trying to get past the norm, what's become the norm. So, so you do have a lot of women that come out of, a single or a whole bunch of different relationships where there's been abuse or they've been degraded or whatever the case may be. And then because of that, once they finally get out of that situation, they either go seek somebody else that's going to end up treating them the same way, or they back off altogether, and then they just don't want anything to do with any man because they feel like it's going to be the same thing no matter who it is, which ends up bad for the good guys.
And me chiming on that, and I believe that 100%. Like I said, there aren't any excuses, but I know that when we brought up the topic prior to even having this discussion today, this is one of the things that I say from a good male's perspective, a good man's viewpoint. As soon as we brought up the topic, a lot of people started shooting us in the inbox and start saying things like, this could be dangerous, or this could be iffy because of stereotypes. And so, again, that makes me say, as a male that consider myself to be a pretty decent person when it comes to the opposite sex, to assume that I have bad intentions on even how I present this.
Right.
One of the complicated predicaments that I am, and I hope I represent all good men when I say this, one of the complicated things for me to do is to try and become a better person for a woman in general because of the oppressed women overall. That's one thing, but to try to be a good man for a woman who's been directly affected and impacted by actual abusive relationships of their past. And then it puts me in a almost an uncompromisable predicament, and not on my part. I'm not being the uncompromised individual. I'm trying to rationalize the situations to build rapport. And then that makes a woman feel like I do not understand what a woman's trauma is, which I do not understand what the woman's trauma is. But I do understand that in order to get along with somebody, we have to have healthy communication. The complication that comes from that is that the more I would sit down and try to have a discussion with a woman who's been impacted by her own personal traumas of abusive relationships, like you said, whether physical, verbal, emotional, is that I'm always put in a bracket. I'm always backed against the wall. It's like, you don't understand what I'm going through. Then it's almost like, well, what are we in a relationship for if you won't even allow me to try to understand what you're going through? If you're going to keep bashing me with the fact of, I'll never understand, you're not a woman, we have problems that was created by your people or your kind of person. And I'm like, I get that. So again, reflecting on trauma that was induced past, and then still post-present right now, I can't keep becoming an enemy. You can't keep making me the enemy. But one of the disconnects that comes with that is that in the process of communicating, it is a problem with men. Men do have the problem of not understanding or not even wanting to understand that what we say at times is offensive to what women are going through as they struggle to overcome the oppressed. It is a problem because some dudes do not understand. But again, post-trauma for men is that we've been taught to disconnect from women. We've been taught to disconnect from our emotion, our personal emotions and feelings. So it's hard for most men to relate to a woman in her emotional circumstances, her emotional state of mind. And so by he's trying to engage a relationship, it's almost like in a relationship with a woman, you got to be on so much thin ice. Well, not all women, but a lot of women, we got to be on so much thin ice. We got to be mindful of how we say things. We got to be mindful of how we approach the situation. And me being an understanding person, is that wrong? Due to the nature of trauma, I don't think it's wrong. But if we're communicating and being open with each other, then at some point we're supposed to get some ice and break the ice. You know, but a traumatized woman that's holding on to her trauma would disallow an opportunity for the ice to be broken and for anything to flourish and grow to become a more healthier situation. I want to know as a good man. I want to know what the woman that I'm dating is really going through. But it's hard for me to get a chance to really know if she keep chopping me and cutting me. Well, you shouldn't say that to a woman, or you shouldn't approach a woman in that manner. Then I'm like, okay, well, tell me what should I do then? But then there's no real answers on what I should do besides, well, you would never understand. So it's like, so how do we get somewhere if you keep telling me that I would never understand?
Well, that's the point. Like if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody and communication is supposed to be key, then you can't excuse the background noises.
It's real.
But no, you can't, from any perspective, male or female, you can't just say, well, you don't understand what I'm going through and then push them away, because then that's not part of the relationship. Then you're supposed to be including that person, whether it's a spouse or a boyfriend, or girlfriend, whatever, so that they can understand you. And that means everything about you. So if you've gone through some stuff, then you need to make that known to the person so that you can either heal from it and continue to figure out your way through that, or keep that same situation from happening with that person. So, and that just goes for how to communicate with people, your family, friends. I understand, like, some people, and I do this too, I don't want to let everybody in on everything. And you shouldn't necessarily have to do that. But if somebody close to you is concerned about you, or you're going through something, you show signs of going through something, you just pushing somebody away and say you just never will understand because you are male or because you are female or whatever, that's not fair. The other person is not going to understand that situation or your viewpoint as the opposite sex or whatever if you don't help them, or if somebody doesn't help them. Like he said, he might not understand, but help him understand, So I think a lot of what we've talked about just comes down to communication and being able to be open with the people that are close to you. And helping them get a grasp of you and get a grasp of maybe the female race, because they're trying to understand you specifically, but they might not understand the struggle that a female is going through, and you gotta open them up to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not fair to tell a good man that's actually willing to say, well, talk to me and tell me what it is that you're feeling and what you're
You never understand, though.
Yeah, that's not fair.
It's not.
Well, of course he won't if you don't say something and,
Right.
and make him get it
Mm-hmm.
as best that he can without having gone through the same thing. So, yeah. So, and you said that people have brought up, how it was going to be kind of a controversial topic, and we're not afraid of that.
And not at all. And I do want to, can I say something?
Yeah.
And what I want to say about that the most is that one of the complications that I know one of the complications that good men go through is that people are going to have their opinions,
mm-hmm.
period, in relationship.
Yeah.
We're going to agree. We're going to disagree. But it's hard for the component of, okay, well, how do we relate to each other?
Yeah.
If in our agreements, it's always like, well, because you're a man, you think you're supposed to know everything. Or in a disagreement, it becomes a battle of the sexes. Mm-hmm. It's either you're wrong or you're right, and if I prove that you're wrong, then don't let that be because I'm trying to overpower something. And it is problematic when you hear a man say, well, you tripping all the time. Quit always tripping. Mm-hmm. That is a problem for a man to say that to a woman. Quit always tripping, without knowing why she's going through or why she's expressing, why she's tripping about whatever it is. So that's our miscommunication or our misperceived perception of what it is that she's really trying to say, from a woman's perspective or from a traumatized situation.
I have a point to make real quick.
Go ahead.
Because sometimes guys either way, but guys will get upset because if you've gone through something, a relationship that went a certain way and it went all off track, and you have those insecurities, or you still hold on to some of that because you're guarded at that point.
Right.
No matter what length of time or what, it's like post-traumatic stress, even the littlest thing. So if that is why she's tripping or whatever, the guy shouldn't come back and say, or the girl, whatever way we're looking at it, shouldn't say, well, I'm not your ex.
Right. Right.
We know that.
Right. That's true.
We get that.
That's
but
true.
I'm still having issues because those are the relationships that I've had, and that's the experience that I went through. So the other person, their responsibility is to help them get through it and to try to understand what they went through and give that person comfort that you're not going to go through it again, because that's not me. It's not that we don't know that you're not that person, or that you're not, that you don't act that way, but we still might get triggered by something. So,
and I'm glad you said that, because that's what I wanted to cover too, is when a woman is in a predicament like that, where she's been impacted or harmed in some form of fashion from past, and a man say, I'm not, because I used to be good at that. Well, I'm not your ex, man. So quit treating me like I'm your ex. Yeah. And it's not that easy, right? We're clear on this not being that easy. Yeah. And so if I'm not your ex, and I can't say that I'm not your ex, so quit coming at me like that way and loosen up a little more with me, what do I say to make this healthy? And if I open my mouth and say, well, whatever you went through, let me know.
Right.
Well, I don't feel comfortable sharing. So what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to just sit here and wait until you comfortable sharing and making everything that I do offensive to you and making everything that I say trigger you from past information? But when you share that information with me, I'm able to now say, I know what triggers her. I know what harms her. I know what puts her in an uncomfortable predicament. So I have to be mindful to not say that, not do that, and avoid being in that type of environment to make her feel or trigger something. But if you're not being open enough to tell me, then I'm always predominantly keep putting you in that predicament to make you put your guards up, or not even want to let your guards down at that point, So, and that's the complication that I get. I'm at the table and I'm like, I just want to know what I can do to make my relationship the best relationship. Right. And the only thing that I can do is listen to what you say and what you share to me. But if you're being secretive with this trauma that you're keeping from me, I'm supposed to be somewhat of your counselor. Right. Allow me to counsel you, because if I'm going through some things, I want you to be the person that I can come and consult into as well. Yeah. What was you going to say?
Well, you mentioned being their counselor. Everybody's going to play a number of different roles in a relationship.
Right.
Sometimes one person's going to go through some stuff and you have to be there for them. So you have to be a counselor.
Right.
Or at least a shoulder to cry on, or whatever. So it's got to go both ways. You have to be able to, if you're going to be in a relationship with somebody and you've had your past situations and you're trying to get through it, if he's trying to understand and he's trying to learn about you or figure out what the problem is, then you can't just...
Well, who says I have a problem?
Right. Well, but you do.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
Right. So you have to be able to, the communication line has to open both ways. You have to be able to share that, at least little by little, and try to make him get a grasp on why whatever happened to you had an effect on you the way it did, and why you're still going through that. And he's got to be open to receiving what you have to say, and vice versa, because like I said, the roles change many times in relationships.
Right. And to add to that part too, so from a man's perspective, again, and I'm gonna keep reiterating the fact that it is wrong for us to say, get over it, I'm not your ex, stop acting that way, and you don't have to do that anymore, or it's wrong for us to say that. So I admit my wrong from ancestral concepts. I admit my wrong from how men set the system up for women to be put in these predicaments, to not trust men, to be completely against, saying the person that want to be in her life, or or whatever that looks like. And so for me to say I represent as a good man, if you're in a relationship with me, if a woman's in a relationship with me, then she know that I care about how she feel. I care about what she's thinking, what's on her mind. And I also care about how I feel. And I care what length that I'm willing to put myself through to try to build something healthy with somebody. And if I'm not being allowed to come into your world, I'm not going to say come into your world to better it, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to be in your world to better our situations, to make you feel healthier, stronger, and more at peace and happy, and not forget what the past was, but to recognize that I'm not what the past was.
So you're going to grow together.
Yeah, I want to grow, but it's hard to grow. Now, is there a limitation to how a person overcomes trauma? I don't know. Is there any remedies and stuff that comes to a person that's affected by trauma? I don't know. But what I do know is that if we sit down and we communicate openly, vulnerably, and most times both male and female do not want to open up information with people that we don't believe we will probably be in an everlasting relationship with, because we feel sometimes we're going to relinquish some of our information, which is going to give this other person power over me, which is what most men do, which is why a lot of women today do not feel that they should be open, and I should be patient, and I should wait until they feel that it's time for them to open up to me and then share that personal information. And I'm saying that's from a good man's part. I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to go through the measures. I'm willing to jump through the hoops. But what I am going to say is that there's still come a point of time to where I'm like, okay,
what are we doing?
What are we doing? Yeah. And what am I doing? Because if I'm going through this and being rejected and not being accepted into your world, then I can only do so much. And then when I'm gone, then a woman would start to feel, from me experience, a woman would start to feel that I'm in this alone. Don't no man care about how I feel. No man cares about my situation. No man want to take the time to understand. I'm like, I want to take the time to understand, but what does that mean? Everything has a deadline. Everything has an expiration date. I have an expiration date. If I've been here and I'm trying to figure it out for a long period of time, and then when somebody come and tell me, well, it seems like you're just so much in a hurry to just know my personal stuff and just know everything about me to the point to where yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. That's the point. That is the point to growing. That's exactly what I'm doing. And so where does that piece come in? And a dear close friend of mine shared with me, a man to claim himself as a good man to a woman and trying to figure out why she's where she's at and why she haven't overcome her trauma is no different than, the white system trying to tell Black people to just, get over it when they don't understand the Black struggle. But what I would say is that if the white society created the struggling of Black people, then the white person knows the system of why Black people are struggling more than the Black people do.
Yeah.
So if it's a situation of why women are under so much trauma and women have undergone so much distress because of a system that was created by a man, then I might not know the experience of what you're going through, but I know about the system that created it to put you in that predicament.
That's a good analogy.
Right. So if I'm here to help dismantle the system, we need to work together. You need to tell me how you feel, because I need to know the symptoms or the effects that comes from this type of infrastructure. And once you tell me that, then I know what they're going to pull from. And I'll tell any woman that's listening and tuned in right now, one of the main things that men need to tap into to better situations for women that are struggling right now is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. And we become vulnerable to the point to where our emotions are attached to something and we are getting shredded. So I might not know what a woman is going through when she's oppressed, but I know what I'm going through when I'm being slaughtered and scratched and smeared and smashed and stomped out, because I'm trying to build that communication, that barrier, and help lift the women that I'm interested in off the ground to do better by each other. I'm being really tormented through that process. And you're not understanding what that feels like to a degree from a masculine's perspective. For a man to feel that vulnerable and still pursuing, a woman don't understand that. The only relations that we do have is trauma. We both understand that we're experiencing something that's not beneficial to and it's unhealthy for both parties. So as a good man, all I'm asking is that don't stop changing what you're doing or who you are, but do allow me to know more about who you are in order for me to know what I should do, how I should say it, and when should I say certain things, because I will be willing to do that for a woman that I'm in a relationship with. I will want to be mindful of how I speak and when I speak and what I talk about. But let's do it in a way to where you're not structuring this for it to be all about you. Because in a relationship, it's going to have to, once we come to understanding, we will realize that it's all about both of us and how both of us are growing, how both of us are happy, and how both of us are in a predicament to make each other feel better and feel protected and feel safe with each other. But the trauma that women hold on to, and this is what I'm going to just say, this is what I feel the most feminist woman would say when I say, now, when it comes down to the trauma that the women go through is, well, you can't say what trauma that a woman goes through because you're not a woman. And you will never understand what it's like to be a woman. You will never understand the oppression that we go through. You will never understand that these situations. And I'm like, okay, I won't understand it, but I do understand that I created a system that you are in. And if you're not telling me how you're feeling really about it, then there's nothing I can really do. And I'm always look like the bad guy.
Right. And part of that, on the women's perspective, you have to realize that the man has likely gone through bad situations too. And he may or may not bring that to the table or bring that baggage with him, but he's gone through some stuff too. So if you won't open up to him and let him understand what you've gone through and what you're trying to grow away from, then why would he open up?
Right.
You know, and then there's a communication barrier from the very beginning. At some point, you're going to have to open up. And if you're willing to get into a relationship with somebody with that in the back of your head or not, that means that you're ready for a relationship. You're ready to try to open up and trust somebody, right? So if you come in and say, you don't understand what I've been through, you're never going to understand what I've been through, but I don't want to talk to you about it, then you're not ready to be in a relationship. I would think.
Yeah, I would say. I'm gonna say, heck no, you're not.
Because at the very least, you should, if to be ready to get into a relationship, you should be ready to open up to that person and take a leap of faith and try to get past whatever it is that's holding you back. Whether you try to do that on your own or you open up to that person, but the better scenario is to open up to the person so that he understands what he's coming into and what he's trying to help you get through. Right.
Because one of the strenuous situations is if we're talking a woman, most women in that traumatized scenario, they want to just tell us about the trauma. They want to just not tell us they're not telling us what they're going through. They're just telling us that my phone's ringing. They're not telling me what they need, is what I'm saying. They're not telling me what they need from me. They're just telling me what they're going through.
And sometimes they might not know what they need from you, but it could just be an open ear.
It could be.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm an open ear. And most men do take advantage of that. When they hear vulnerable, and that's what the predatorial man is. The predatorial man is they find the weakest, the most vulnerablest woman, and they pursue them to take advantage of them, and they're emotional. And that's why I get it. Why many women do not want to just be open, and that's what makes it hard for good people, you know, because of that type of man. Because I look like the type of person that normally does stuff like that. And so I'm saying it takes a woman's vulnerability once again, because you're going to have to constantly become vulnerable in order to find the right match, right? I'm going to always have to put myself in an uncompromising predicament. That means go through it, listen to her, be there, go through the whole hurtful processes of everything, and grow with it. It's almost like a situation with a person in a wheelchair. We're growing together, we both walking, we both upright, we having fun, we jumping around, we sprinting, we running. One day we wake up, I'm in a wheelchair, you're walking, and now I hate the world because I'm in a wheelchair, and you're here with me all the time like I'm here. And you're like, you know, you don't understand what I'm going through. It's like, okay, but I'm here right here with you.
Right.
I'm going to grab the wheel. I don't need you to grab my wheelchair. Actually, you probably do need me to grab the wheelchair. But you're so powerful and you're so broken and you're so hurt right now. And you're so mad at yourself for being in the predicament that you are in, that you don't want nobody's help and you want to figure it out by yourself. But deep in your heart, you know dang on well you need help. But you don't want to relinquish that power to nobody because it's going to make you feel like you're incapable on doing things and overcoming situations yourself. And that's what you're supposed to feel like, because that's the type of predicament that you're in. But you're going to still have to put your feelings to the side. As far as what I mean by feelings to the side, okay, I'm talking about your pride. You have to put your pride to the side and allow the person that's actually there that's trying to help. Would you know if it's the right person or not? No, you will not. But like you said earlier, it's a leap of faith. You give the relationship a faith. If I know if a woman that I'm trying to talk to or be in a relationship with, if you done gave all of these other dudes that done hurt you and broke you to pieces, if you done gave them an opportunity, and I know deep in my heart that I'm here to really do a part and be there for you, you give me an opportunity too. Don't stop giving out the opportunities because of past experiences.
I mean, there are a lot of situations though where, I mean, it is the situation where they take the leap of faith with these other guys because they start off looking like a nice guy too.
Right.
So,
right.
You know,
Let's be
you
real.
find out the reality of the situation later after you've already opened up and been vulnerable and shared things that they later on use against you. And, you know, it sucks, but it's kind of like what we have to go through. Man, unless you just really want to live as a monk and a nun. You know?
I'm glad you broke that down, man, because that is facts.
Yeah.
I'm painting myself as the good guy because I am. If I'm in a relationship with you, I'm a loyal person. I don't do the cheating. I don't do the sneaking and sleeping around. You know what I'm saying? In a relationship, that's not my personality or my character, you know. And most dudes do approach with the fox, the sly and the slickery, and they become the good guy. You know, nah, baby, I'm the one for you. You get what I'm saying? And that sucks for me. There go my trauma. That sucks for me. You get what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying to women. I'm not that guy. He done mastered people like myself to the T, to where he can manipulate you and draw you in for his own benefit, for his own pleasure, to where when the right person do come around, you like, time. No, not you. You're not gonna hurt me.
There's that same game again.
Right. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, I done heard it before. And I'm like, man, so why do I gotta suffer from that? I heard it before. Yeah. All I'm asking is that give me an opportunity, because what ends up happening in real life for everybody, nobody wins. Yeah. Our future generation doesn't win. Those that come after us will not win. If we can't figure out how do we really separate the false fool's goal for the real goal, how do we really build upon each other? And it all based off of communication. We have to talk and quit jumping into bed with people out extra early. You get what I'm saying?
We're gonna do a video on that.
We're gonna do a video on that for sure.
Yeah.
And because that starts to complicate a lot of the things that you're going through. When in the beginning, if you just have the healthy communication. And I do advise men to be openly honest, and that's another reason why good women push away good men. You know, is because dudes are great with game. They got silver tongues. You get what I'm saying? Because they've been conditioned that way. Right. They've been conditioned to know how to manipulate the mind of a woman, because most women are looking for an opportunity to be great and heard in this world that they're not heard and seen in, to where he feels that he can come through and be like, no, baby, I can show you the way. You know what I'm saying? We're going to rock this out, Bonnie and Clyde. And There's some relationships that has been proven to be been thorough and have worked on both parts. Powerful couples, you know, that superhero couple thing that's got going on, that it is doable. But I'm sure that those two people that make that happen are people who openly communicate with each other. They know all each other's skulls and skeletons and bones in the closet. They know how not to offend each other. They know what not door to open. They know what not words to say. They know how to treat each other in public with around other people. They know how to treat each other behind closed doors. And so until the women allow a good man the opportunity to enter in the world and vice versa, he has to be vulnerable. And that's one of the hardest things for men to do is be vulnerable, because we've been conditioned to tuck our feelings and hide our feelings, which is our trauma symptom for ourselves. And now I don't want to make it an excuse for us as men, but I'm just being honest. We've been taught that way. And I want women to understand that we've been taught a way too to act. We've been taught a way to treat women. Granted, my mama raised me to be rightful and treat women with respect. And I does that. You know what I'm saying? And so what were you going to say?
Well, a couple of points. So on what you just said, a lot. Okay, I'm not going to say a lot, but I just think that because of the changes in the generations, the guys, it just seems like it's getting worse, you know, because like you said, you've been conditioned to act and speak and do things a certain way, which not everybody has that mindset. Because like you said, you know, he was raised to treat women with respect and all that. But if you have these situations where, you know, a guy was raised in the hood and he's always around, you know, that kind of crowd, not so much around a wholesome family because it's likely a single parent home. And he doesn't have like a real relationship with his mom because she's out working and doing what she's got to do. So then he's raised by the streets, and he's raised by that mentality that then takes him off on a whole different road.
Right.
What was my other point? Oh, the other point was, like you were saying, it's hard for men to be vulnerable. So that should right there open up an understanding of how a woman feels. Because naturally she's more vulnerable. She's going to open up a little bit more than a man will always. So if he could just step back for a minute and think, well, man, if I was to open up and tell her this, and this about me, that puts me in on the same plane with her. And she very well could take advantage of that just like I could, you know, so then maybe that'll open up a little bit of understanding for people. I mean, you just have, and I think I made this point in the last video too, you have to be careful who you open up to.
Right.
But if you're ready to try to be in a relationship with somebody, then you have to allow yourself to open up a little bit at a time or something. Because if you're not willing to open up to somebody new and try to trust somebody new, then you've got more going on that you need to work out on your own before you get to that point. Because if you can't open up to yourself and try to understand what it is you're going through yourself, then, and I'm not saying that you're going to be completely healed and, you know, walk into a relationship brand new, because chances are that's not going to happen. There's going to be some ups and some downs. Everybody's gone through something, and especially women. I think especially women, because just from my own experience, I'm 37, and I can't find a guy in my age bracket that's ready to settle down. Let alone, they're still looking for hookups. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like 40, almost 40 years old, and you're still in that mindset. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's why I say, like, it's generation over generation. It just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And I don't know, maybe men feel like, you know, the whole settling down thing and really opening up to somebody and being in a committed relationship, maybe that's not for them because of the way that they've been conditioned.
And I would say a lot of it has to do with the way they've been conditioned. And I know also a lot has to do with the distance that a person will go in a relationship without no grounds being broken. You know, I know from my experience, what would make me say I'm not interested in no relationships with nobody at this point is because I would jump in a relationship and I make myself vulnerable. Now, heartbroken, and most women look at it like we don't get our heart broke. You know what I'm saying? Or we haven't been hurt in relationships. you know, because I'm a man. You know, I've been hurt in several relationships in my times of growing. And one thing that I do realize that what scares me about a relationship is that there's no ice being broken.
Mm.
We at the table and we talking, but I'm always doing something wrong, or I'm always saying something wrong.
Mm.
And I'm always like, well, what should I do? And it's always coming back, well, you'll never understand anyway. So what sense does it make? It's like, so what sense does it make to be in a relationship?
Why are you there?
And so when we chunk the deuce and I'm like, okay, I'm parting ways and I'm outro. See, that's what I'm saying. You guys just give up on us all easy. It's not about giving up on a woman easy.
But
it's
you
just
don't
like,
give nothing to work with.
right. There's nothing out there for me to grasp a hold to and say, okay, now this I can work with.
Right.
I can work with this. You get what I'm saying? But for all you dog men out there, yeah, y'all make it bad for people that really want to do good. You know what I'm saying? And it's really trying to be there for women that has been broken. Now, there are some women that use that I'm a broke woman or I'm a broken woman or I'm a traumatized woman to manipulate the situations, you know? They allow themselves to be the damsels in distress, and when a good guy comes to, they treat him like crap. You get what I'm saying? And I've seen too many times to where I know, because I know what a dog looks like. And I know when I see a female friend of mine or somebody that I know that's in a relationship with a good guy, and they treat him like he's scum of the earth. He work every day. He brings home the bacon. He's being there. He want to listen. He does his part, but he's not aggressive enough all of a sudden. He doesn't speak his mind enough all of a sudden. And as the moment he start becoming a little more aggressive and he start talking and speaking up, then he becomes a power trip and egotistical supreme extremists that want to overpower and dominate women.
There's no happy medium.
There's no happy medium because there's no active communication. There's no active listening to both parts, you know. And so to gain segue before we cut this all the way off, the whole feminist movement piece, you know, because we ain't going to end on without tapping into that.
Yeah.
This feminine movement that's going on right now, I believe that the feminist movement is healthy for women and the trauma and the oppression that women are going through. I also believe that the feminist movement is toxic towards men who want to be a part of creating the solution. Like you said the other day, in the feminist movement, now most people would say that most feminine women are fighting for equal opportunities. But what I'm going to speak, and I'm addressing the women who feel that the annihilation of mankind and the male species is on the table. They want to dominate everything. And the reason why they want to dominate things is because they've been dominated their whole lives. So it's almost like it's not fair until you guys feel what we've felt. Until you guys have been oppressed by us, you will never understand what we're going through. And I'm like, well, why should it have to go that far and to that extent? Now, I understand the circumstances to what your trauma is. Now, for me being a male that's been incarcerated, so most women that keep running that, well, you don't know what it'd be like. You've always been privileged with your size and all these other things. I understand what it's like to be skeptical on would somebody harm me or somebody would hurt me, or you know what I'm saying, would somebody consider to be taking advantage of you? Mm-hmm. I understand what that looks like, because me doing 4 years in prison, it put me as a man, regardless of my size, it puts me in a vulnerable predicament to where I got to be mindful of everything that's happening around me as a man. So as a man, why do I got to be leery about what he's up to and what they up to? Are they plotting on me? Would they come and try to check me, or whatever the case may be like? So I understand what that experiences feel like. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm walking down the street, like some women come and say, well, you don't have a problem walking down the streets because as a man, you can defend yourself. But when you walk in prison, it's hard. You don't know what you're going to do. If I see like 4 or 5 Aryans or white boys walking up here and I'm looking around and I'm the only brother that's up in here, right. And I'm looking around like, okay, so boom, what is this like? So I feel vulnerable. I feel insecure about the situation. Am I confident? Yeah, I'm confident. I'm built for whatever we're going to do. But that doesn't mean that I can't be violated. It doesn't mean that I can't be taken advantage of. So I understand the vulnerability of being in a predicament to where my manhood could be compromised. Right. And I don't mean by literally just violating, but my man could be compromised by being somebody taking control of me and my right, whether that's jumping me and beating me to a pulp. That's my vulnerability. Mm-hmm. So I understand what it feels like to be against the wall and don't have the ability to feel powerful. Right. And I feel certain moments that I can be overpowered and powerless. So I understand that. So a woman can't keep running that part to me. Right. You know, in retrospect to, well, what is it like when a woman walks into a room with a room full of dudes and they feel vulnerable? That's like me walking into a room full of homosexual dudes. You can say I feel just as vulnerable because the way that women, dog dudes look at women, a lot of homosexual dudes look at the average man that walks in the door that they find attractive. And I feel the eyes and the energies that's set upon me, just like you would feel it if you walk in the room. Is every man in the room looking at you and treating you like that way? No. Is every male that's homosexual looking at me and treating me that way when I walk in the room? No. But the ones that are, you feel it. And so I feel what that feels like. So I feel that violation part that comes to it. Just because I'm a man doesn't mean that I'm not in vulnerable predicaments all the time. So a person can't keep throwing my privilege of power and strength in the correlation of everything because I am a man. You got to understand too that, well, you don't have to understand. I'm just asking you to partake in understanding about what these situations are as well.
So on that subject of the feminist movement, when I had posted about this video, a couple people had made a comment saying that shouldn't a good man be part of or supportive of and encourage women and the feminist movement? Well, of course they should. That's not what we're saying. The problem comes from the ones that want to support and want to understand and want to be a part of trying to push forward that movement.
We don't need your help.
They get that. Because
you think we need your help?
You're so pro-woman that you don't want men to be a part of it, even if the man is supporting your cause.
Right.
So
that's your problem. You men always think you can just come here and just fix everything, and you men just believe that y'all can just come here and because you hear all of a sudden it should get better. It's like, man,
it's not even about that.
It's not about that. How do we utilize all of the tools that we have to make the situation right? If that's the case, I'm not in a predicament. You guys are.
Right.
So if you're in a predicament that I'm supposed to be created, then I'm here at the table to help out the best way I can. And you don't want to allow me to do so.
The whole point of the feminist movement is to create change and make sure that women can stand on their own 2 feet, right? And they can support themselves and they can be independent, and they're trying to get past the persecution and the abuse and all the things that they go through. Okay, so if you have somebody like Threat who's going to jump in and say, I'm totally in support of that. I think that women should be independent and should be able to do this, that, and the other. Okay, but then you want to push him away.
Well, you help me by starting with your friends. Start with your dog friends. You check them dudes that degrading women. And I'm like, okay. But like we said in the last video, I'll check the men that's degrading women, but you check the women that allow themselves to be available for the degraded men to come out there and holler at them. Because if it's a market out there, the dogs that I do see in the backyard, they're going to come out here and find out what's out here.
Right. So
I can't do my part if y'all not doing your part. But the better correlation to that is that if I'm a powerful stand-up man and I believe in raising young men and putting young men in positions where they treat women with respect and they keep themselves into a predicament where they don't power and use their physical capabilities to overbear and control women. If I'm working with those types of young men and you're the type of woman that are working with young women to say preserve yourself and keep yourself in a conditioned perspective of mind, grow, build with the platform that you do have and make a way. Connect with each other and say, let's become the example in the movement. Don't let it be an all-man movement. Don't let it be an all-woman movement. Let both of these powers combine and create Captain Planet.
Yes.
It's real.
But that's the whole point of the movement, is to try to not only educate women and empower women, but it's also to educate men and embrace the ones that want to. You're not going to get the change if you don't include men. The movement is so that there's a whole different understanding of women and that they are understood, they are powerful, not powerless, all of that, right? Well, if you're just preaching to the choir, you're only in your
on the box
with the women, then where's the change going to come from?
Nowhere. Because y'all going to come out the door and we're going to be like, y'all still on that same stuff? Well, we're going to still keep applying that pressure then. You ain't cutting us in on the understanding, or we're going to keep applying the pressure then. Figure it out. And as you try to figure it out, you're going to keep bumping your head, because the more y'all figure it out, the more we don't, because men are studying women to the max. They're figuring out how you maneuver and how you create new demonstrations on how you're going to. And so if men has been 10 years ahead or 10 centuries ahead of women and their abilities to grow, then if women think that men aren't up to code with what their new strategies are, then it's sadly mistaken. You know, it's like a rat being in a rat trap. And the person that created the rat trap, they allow you to go as far as they want you to go until they add something extra that you don't even know about. Then they create another new component, but you're so stuck in the maze to where you feel like, oh, I done found my way to the exit. But then, you got to the exit, but he's seen you getting to the exit, so he built something extra. And if I'm the builder of this, then I know what's being built. You get what I'm saying? So I want to know where you're at, and by you being expressive with me, and one thing, I'm not talking all y'all, but if you being open with me about what's going on, then single relationships, we can help each other, but we model the demonstration of what it looks like. And for anybody that's having wholesome and healthy relationships out there, then that's the type of movement that should be created. When men and women unify with each other and are in sync and they have balance.
And you can use that as an example of what we would think that the feminist movement should look like.
Mm-hmm.
So just like we were talking about in the relationship, you want to be able to be vulnerable and you want to be able to open up and give communication a try so that you can understand where each other's coming from. Same thing with the feminist movement or any other kind of movement. You can't have a movement and then the people that you are saying don't get it and they're the ones that are oppressing and doing all the wrong stuff. You keep them out even if they want to learn and they want to help and support your cause. You can't push them out and then expect that they're going to make that change happen. If that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I hope it makes sense to y'all. And we're moving here to 52 minutes, and I appreciate those who's been chiming in and tapped in for this long period of time. But this is healthy, and it is important. And I hope we've covered a lot of information that you could take and walk away with. Again, do not be opposed and afraid to leave comments and your information at the bottom and in these tags, and people are saying stuff.
Oh.
I'm trying to get
gender equality. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry, y'all.
Sorry, party people.
We got too much going on here. Men can be feminine too. Masculinity is toxic when utilized as a dominant approach.
Very much. Very much.
Yep. And it won't let me scroll back, so I can't see what else you've said. But thank you for that point because yes.
Who is that? Bendo.
Yep.
My brother gonna see that's a good guy.
Consistency. Thank you.
See, now I'm gonna say this is what I'm saying about a good man. Bendo, that's my guy. I know him personally, on the record and off the record. That is what you call a good guy. Not only do he educate himself on who he is, but he's also educating himself on, as men, where we go wrong when we're wanting to build a relationship with women. However, the downside to that is that with the knowledge that you do gain and the understanding that you do gain, you have to now jump in the water and deal with the treacherous waves and the typhoons that's happening and the correlation of everything. Patience is important, but when you want to grow, somewhere out there, there's somebody that is open up to you and realize that you're not hurting them. We want to find that. Yeah. So if we're here and it's not working, then it's like, oh, I'm over here and I'm rather just beating myself until the right person come along, and that's what we end up doing. Bendo, you a good dude, bro. You represent, you family oriented. You like to have fun. You enjoy your downtime. You like to do family things. You like to engage your kids into everything. And when it comes to the rights of the women, you are very much an advocate of that, bro. And you as a person that I would say I module my concepts and personality around the knowledge that you do have about these movements and these things that do oppress women. I was completely oblivious towards trauma in the beginning of my understanding to the women's rights and the circumstances of women, because men, masculinity. No? Yeah.
Okay.
Masculinity and its toxic approach to overbearing, that is very, very dangerous for both men and for women in order to be able to grow in a healthy relationship. But it is going back to the beginning of the thing. But what do I do as a good man to approach a relationship and not being accepted or knowing the story or the history of the woman that I'm with by her not wanting to share because she's afraid of me hurting her again because it's been so common in her life. What I'm saying is that it still comes a point to where that good man that you do have, you will miss out on that opportunity because of your insecurities and your past experiences. Do I blame you? No. Am I faulting you? No. But what I am saying is if the communication is not on the table to become more vulnerable at all times, then we were going to always miss out on the opportunity to be beneficial for both of us. In a relationship, it's not about your trauma. It's about our trauma. In a relationship, it's not about my trauma. It's about our trauma.
And the point, whether man or woman, just like we say, don't tell people to get over it or to throw at them, well, I'm not your ex. Don't don't go in thinking that, well, I can't talk about my past relationships.
Mhm.
I can't, because that's a bad thing. Everybody thinks it's a bad thing to bring up what what the situation was with your ex. Sometimes you just have to do that.
Sometimes you do.
And it's not to, make him get defensive and say, well, why we got to talk about him again? It's so that you can get past whatever you're getting past if you're still going through something. Because otherwise, if you don't open up and let him know what tragedies you had in your past relationships, then you are going to be tripping about certain things, and it'd be the littlest thing, and he doesn't know why.
Not at all.
If you don't tell him, and then you yourself try to get past it, he himself tries to help you get past it. Because if you're getting to know anybody on any level, at some point you're going to have to talk about past relationships, and because you have to go into a relationship knowing what you want, what you don't want. So once you have that conversation, bring it up then. But that conversation needs to be had so that when you go into the relationship, you're not going in blind, not knowing who you're dealing with.
Very much. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
I agree. I concur. So with that being said, love each other unconditionally when you find that person. Give each other enough time to break the ice with each other. I would say that. Give each other enough time. And there is a such thing as, if you feel like the feeling is not mutual and it's not being reciprocated, and you feel like you're not getting what you're getting out of the relationship, then figure out how to detach yourself away from that situation, both male and female. If you guys aren't opening up to each other and nothing's being done about it, then that means it doesn't belong. You got to find right by yourself and become more adamant about your own personal growth and your own personal happiness. And like Dorothy said earlier, if it's not going to work in a relationship, then maybe that means you need to reflect on yourself. And it comes back to self-reflection and getting in touch with yourself, because once you understand your personal traumas and you deal with your personal traumas, it'll give you an idea of what trauma looks like when it approaches.
Yeah.
But if you haven't dealt with your own demons, then you're going to not be mindful of the demon when they approach. You got to just be mindful of the reflection that you see, and you're going to accept yourself in that person, which is not healthy for you, nor is it healthy for those that are around you, both male and female, and anything outside of male, female, and your gender preference. Relationships are a complicated thing on both parts, and we all got our issues.
You got two personalities that are trying to mesh.
And then a lot of times we got 14 personalities. We all got multiples and stuff, so being humble and all of that. You got anything to say before we close out? Just,
like I said, nobody's really going to go into a relationship being whole and knowing that they're totally over everything that they've ever gone through in life. So just be willing to open up to the person, because if you're not willing to do that, then you still have work to do on yourself.
CMCC, the movement, change media, change culture, #YBMWs, young businessmen and women. We're still in the building. A lot of things coming in the future. Shout outs to
Purple Style Productions and the Record Store. And make sure that you go follow us, like us, share all of our stuff wherever you're at. We have YouTube up now. So it's CMCC 1080 TV.
Yep, CMCC 1080 TV.
Yep. So this video will be up there and everywhere else. And so just continue to follow us through the whole process, because it's a work in progress.
Yeah, because we're going to develop it. This is going to turn into what we want it to be, and it's going to turn into what you guys want to see.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the loyal basis that we do have with people that are tapping with us right now. Just keep following us. We want you to not be here for just now, but we want you to be for now and the middle and the end, and that to come after us, and we move forward, man. 432 frequency.
Yep.
Always remain to keep it. It's very healthy and it's very productive and positive. So that's our time. We at an hour right now. Damn. And it feels good to do that. Also, before I close that too, Domino Tournament, June 8th at the Swiss Pub. It's a fundraiser for young men and women. So I'm going to have more information on my website, and then I'm going to have more information on Facebook and Instagram about the Domino Tournament. So if you play bones and you're good at it, the cause is for us to develop a Learning About Business Center, which is basically just getting space for us to be able to teach young men and women from the ages of 13 to 25 business fundamentals about marketing, budgeting, financing, branding, lifestyle, and everything that comes along with it. The more skills the youth have, the more leverage that we have as business owners and entrepreneurs to have a network and a marketing team of people to get our information and our product and our services on the market in an awesome rate, you know. And so look out for the domino. It's going to be at Pierce County, the Swiss Pub. If y'all know where they're at, that's June 8th, Saturday, from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. If you play bones, we're going to see who's the dominologist.
Right across from the back of UW Tacoma.
Better believe it. Town business.
Tell them about your business class too.
CMCC 1080 Business Planning 101 at TCC every Monday from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Student Center, which is Building 11. It's important you get there. And we also do every Thursday at TCC, Building 11, the same building, CMCC 1080 Psychology Media Combination, to where we talk about how do the psyche correlate with media, how does media manipulate the mind, the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious, and how do we have our kids out here being catered to these these social media networks and distract their perspectives on growing. And it teaches them how to be unemotional young men and take advantage of young women, putting them in these vulnerable predicaments. And for you women out there shaking your thing and busting it on the dang on Instagram, you're not being mindful of the 12 and 11-year-old boys that are tapped into these things and getting their hormones all riled up. So they just grow to be these sexual animals, you know, because of what they've been turned on to. So it's another story in itself. So
yeah, we'll get on that later.
We're going to get around it there. Love y'all. Right. We out, man. 432 frequency.
Yeah.
Keep it positive.